Hello, KFC Supercoaches. It is round 14. The teams are in. It's an interesting teams day. We were hoping that we'd see which players would and wouldn't back up from Origin, but realistically, we're not too much the wiser, to be honest. We've got Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow and Tom Gilbert as the only two guys who are confirmed not to back up. From there, it's a lottery.
There's absolutely no point doing this show. You asked me not to start with that, Thomas, but I've just got to be honest. With Origin,
so just stop listening now.
With Origin tomorrow night, it's a gamble, right? You're going to make trades. I made trades. You've made trades. Everyone does as soon as you see the teams. But it's all going to change in 24 hours.
Right, so just stop listening to this podcast right now. But tune in for the Game Day podcast at 11 a.m.
Oh, that's going to be huge. Yes.
Massive. You're on. Are you on? I think you are.
I hope so.
I think you're around. Yeah. So Hammer and Gilbert are the only two guys confirmed not to back up. For the Dolphins, they would have had to travel from Adelaide to Auckland and only had a 2-day turnaround. So it makes sense. The other guys are either in reserves or named to start. So guys like Nathan Cleary, who plays in the last game of the round, it's going to be tough with them.
Yeah, it is. And Cleary is an obvious captaincy choice against, I think he's got your guys, doesn't he?
He does.
He has the Dragons.
It's the resurgent Dragon.
But you can't possibly risk it last game. I think you've got to go Nicho Hines or someone a little earlier. You'd think that people like Hines, Cleary, they'll all back up, all the outside backs, Turbo, etc. But, if Cleary cops one in the ribs again, then there's every chance they rest him. Have they got Jack Cogger sitting there on the bench? He's an option. Yeah.
Send through your questions and comments, guys. We'll get to those in a sec. I'll start with the winners, though. Jacob Carraz. Look, I don't mind him as a buy. A bit of a base stat beast, and he's bottomed out after those injury issues. So I kind of like it. You can pick him up from Jared Croker to him. Only costs you about 40 or 50k.
Yeah, and I mean, he's unlikely to be rested by the coach anytime he feels like he wants to, give the home team something to cheer about. So that's a good thing for Carraz. I mean, 480k is a good price for him. I just feel his BE's 50-odd. He's carrying a little bit of a knee still. He's got, he's still coming back from that MCL. Last week he didn't quite look as free as he did earlier in the season. So I'd say you could wait a week.
Yeah, well, hopefully he's good after that week off. Joey Manu is another winner, back from the bye, and he is at 5'8". That is good news for people who held, and I did not.
I didn't either. And the Sam Walker's further away than we'd hoped, so at least another 2 or 3 weeks. So Joey's going to get more time in the halves, and the Roosters have obviously come back. They understand now how to play rugby league. They didn't understand earlier, but they've had the week off, and Robbo's explained it to them. They're ready to go.
Joe is saying, send through your questions on Facebook and on YouTube as well. Joe's saying, hands up if you're screwed this round. It's a good question because I think a lot of people overcommitted to last week's bye. And the teams that are on the bye this week, the Eels, Sea Eagles and Knights are all really popular teams. You run through the guys in those sides. And they've got some seriously good Supercoach talent in those sides.
There were a lot of Eels were bought last week.
Yep.
And they all went well. Gutherson and Hopgood and Moses. But, you're filling gaps now. Yeah.
We've got a question. Oh, I'm going to put this to you. Actually, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Go on.
But Jonathan is asking thoughts on Jake Turpin.
Oh, that was my sneaky buy of the week, Thomas.
Yes.
Who was that?
Whoever
it was, you're a prescient human being. I
probably
like
read the blog.
It's a way to get out of the Sonny Luke hole, right? And I'll take any way out of that hole. But so Brandon Smith's out 6 to 8 with a busted thumb. Turpin's a starting hooker. He's not flash. He's not fancy. He's reasonably ugly. But what he does do is just stick that potato of a head in there and make 45 tackles, right? And that's all I need at 230k. So I think as long as he gets 60, 65 minutes, maybe his days as an 80-minute hooker are over, or at least he's got to work up to it. Drew Hutchison's there sitting on the bench, might take 15 minutes from him. But, at 230k, if he can get 50 points, which is quite possible, most of them will be in tackles, in 6 weeks, he goes up 200k. I'll take that.
Yep, I don't hate it, particularly if Harry Grant gets ruled out and I have to play Sonny Luke. Then it could be I don't want to play Sonny Luke, so it could be a real option for there. Losers, Jack Bird. So rested for 2 weeks is the word, but he's got knee soreness essentially. I bought him in last week. He played 50-odd minutes, went off, and then just didn't come back. Yeah. And the guy who came on looked really good, so I think that's part of the part of the deal why they're not taking a risk with him. Other than the fact that Dragons coming 16th, so there's no point in risking anyone, really.
Yeah, you might as well save him for finals in 2027. Look, it's the kick in the arse I needed as a Bird owner. I bought him a few weeks ago. He had a couple of good games, and then obviously the knee's been bothering him. I'm punting him to Bateman.
Bateman,
yeah,
interesting. So let's
really
chat about him.
But I'm going Bateman. Yeah.
Well, he's a fair bit cheaper. I don't hate it, to be honest.
About 100k cheaper, covers both the buys. His base has been getting better and better as he seems to be getting fitter. Plays 80 minutes. Base is around 50. He's got plenty of attack in him. You never know what he's going to do. He might get a forced dropout. He might kick it dead. Either way, he'll be swearing at someone else. Gives me someone to watch on a Friday night, which is always a good reason to trade. I like it.
Yep, I don't hate it at all. And on Nickera, I feel like he has been sensational this year, but probably overachieving. Laura Babbage just says he probably can't keep that up. But then I said that about Jermaine Asako last week, and look what happened with him.
I believe he went okay. Look, I got lucky with him. Yeah, he went really well. Unless, injury strikes, I think he's going to be a top 2 or 3 centre wing.
I mentioned guys on the bye this week. There's a list of really good players like Dylan Brown, who surely is a hold. Greg Marziu, who killed it on the weekend. If you captain him, I know the mastermind did, then you're absolutely laughing. Tom Trbojevic is an interesting one.
He's an interesting
Jermaine
one.
Hopgood, I think, is a hold. Mitchell Moses, interesting one. Garrick is a hold for sure. Gutherson's up in the air. Schuster, you hold. Ponga, you hold. Let's chat about Tommy Turbo first up.
Lots of people selling Garrick too. And Turbo. So, Turbo came off 160. He's coming off 165. 2 weeks before that, he scored 80. Problem is, I think he only plays 3 of the next 5. So, you held him. He didn't play last week. Then he plays 2, and they're tough games. Well, one's a tough game. It's Storm, and the other one's the Roosters. Used to be a tough game. The real big thing for me, whether I hold him, and I want to hold him because I'm running low on trades, is does he pull up okay from Origin? If he pulls up okay from Origin, then I'm going to hold him from here to Waller. That's it.
Yep. No, fair enough. I mentioned Jermaine Hopgood. A lot of people got on last week. For me, he'll be... I couldn't get on because it would have stuffed me for this week. But next week, he should be one of the most purchased players if you don't already own him and you're one of those idiots who sold him at the start of the year.
Stick him with Fafita in your second row. Yep. That's an awfully nice 1-2 start to how you're going to finish that position.
Yep, and then just completely forget about it.
Yep.
Jared Croker, he is not playing this week.
Thanks,
rested.
Ricky.
They want him to play the 300th game at... this is the try assist on the weekend. This was great because... Whiten has overrun him so badly.
Well, I didn't.
And Croker, the wily old fox, has passed it and then Whiten's blowing up. Yeah. He didn't get the ball. It's like you're almost in front of him. He would have had to pass it forward.
Croker said afterwards, I'm not used to poking my nose through. I did that very much in the leg. Yeah. He's a 15-metre runner these days.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not the only person in the office, but I'm possibly the only one who's got the guts to say it to the public that there is a big consensus within the Daily Telegraph's newsroom, except for a very limited number of people, that they hope the Raiders lose and that they lose it on goal kicking because Ricky didn't pick his best side because he wanted to play his guy at home.
Yep. Well, look, I mean,
the protection racket is
still
in full effect.
Fogarty's still okay as a kid.
You're just trying to stop me from killing myself.
Yeah, we don't want to get sued on this show. I reckon Croker is a sell, by the way. Definite sell. Him to Carraz is a pretty obvious trade for me.
I agree, except in the last 5, he's gone over 60 3 times. That's pretty good. There's a little bit more milk to get out of the cow, but him to Carraz is good.
Tyrone Peachey I've got on the losers list, and look, he has been named and he's starting at centre, but Isaac Tungle is on the extended bench. So Tyrone Peachey's time in the top grade at starting centre is probably over soon. I sold him last week. I'm relatively happy with it. I still think he's a good chance to stay in that team somewhere, particularly if guys don't back up from Origin. Could be a great little 14 or utility. Been in decent form, but I still think the go was to sell last week for SuperCoach.
Probably, again, I got a little greedy, so I held on. The thing is that Liam Martin's there already on the interchange bench. So, Peach could go right out, which is probably the best result for Supercoach if he doesn't start at centre. Let's just wait and see. Again, until tomorrow night.
Yes. Jason Carter is asking, Latrell to Dylan Edwards. It's a popular trade. I think Latrell does have to go, and if you've got that amount of money, then Edwards, I feel like you may as well.
I don't hate it. I think if you're going to do it, you need to be aware that it's probably going to cost you $50,000, right, in Supercoach salary. I don't think Edwards can maintain an 800k sort of scoring average. I think he loses a little bit. You could go to, I was going to say who's the Sharks fullback who's been absolutely killing it.
Kennedy.
And Will Kennedy at 700k. Again, the two of them. What's interesting to me is that they're quite dependent on their halves, right? So if Cleary doesn't get through Origin, then I think Edwards' value takes a hit. Luai, if he doesn't get, then Edwards takes a hit. If Hines doesn't get through, then Kennedy's value takes a hit. These are things I think you've got to think about before you make the trade.
No, fair enough. Let's move on to the buys. Jareem Buller, very popular this week. Realistically, he should have got on a while ago. He's a lot more expensive than he was $250,000 ago. But would you get on this week, given that he's got that 124 from his last week in the rolling average? Realistically, should be able to make around 150k relatively easily in the next couple of weeks.
2 mid-60 games gets him to 150k.
Yep.
You'd think he gets there. His run numbers have increased really well as the confidence came through. I think you could go there. I'm just too stubborn to sell Teddy or Turbo, so I'm not going to do it. But I still think there's some value, just obviously not what there was.
Yep. This is a new segment on the show called Rob's Gloat Moment. Jermaine Asako, I mentioned it before, but well done. I honestly didn't think he could keep it up. But it just every week he gets a try and he's kicking goals and work rate's pretty good. It's just been an incredible season. Two tries.
So I think he's had multiple try games. He's had 4 games in the hundreds. He's no Kyle Phil. That's the greatest buy I've ever had. I think. God bless Kyle Phil.
You're only allowed to gloat about one player in the Rob Gloat section.
Well, in that case, I'm going Kyle Phil because that was ridiculous. Asako made sense. I think he's locked in at the moment.
I tried to pull one last week with Katoni Staggs. I didn't tell anyone about it on the show, and he got down to the high 300k mark, so almost in the cheapy bracket. So I didn't tell anyone about it, and then he did okay. He only got 40 or 39 over the weekend.
Stick with him. 39. Yep. It's not a bad game.
Hopefully
he'll be better with A-Ray. Yeah.
So this section is called.
Did A-Ray miss last week, or am I speaking out of my?
A-Ray
was it the week
definitely
before?
played.
Nah, it was the week before
with the neck concussion thing. Just relax on these guys. Corey Horsburgh.
It's hard to relax around Corey.
The horse was awesome, but just the horse has bolted on him. You should have got him before the buys, and he's just great to watch. But you shouldn't be getting on this week, and a lot of people are.
I think the value is gone. I agree that last week was a time. At 80 minutes on an edge is a pretty good effort for a big unit like that. Almost 40 tackles as well. So he's doing a tohu and defending in the middle. The runs are down, but the effectiveness with the runs was great. But I'd agree, I probably wouldn't get him this week. I think I'd lean to a Bateman. Yeah.
Yep. A guy you mentioned before is Jaden Ockenbaugh. And Joey's asking, would you buy Ockenbaugh? Plays the buys.
Name star.
Yeah,
I don't buy it though. Yeah. Surely Corey Waddell slots back to an edge and my man Harrison Edwards starts at lock. There's a little bit of self-interest there. But to me, that makes more sense. As a Roosters fan, I would prefer if Waddell's at 13 and Ockenbaugh's at 11. Then I think Waddell is better on an edge.
Question, would you hold Jackson Ford?
No.
I think he's a sell eventually. I'm going him to Hopgood next week. Yeah. So I need him for one more week, and then we'll see what happens.
He shouldn't lose too much money, but I'd sell him.
He's not a top 17 player till the end of the year. Also on the sell list, I've got Latrell Mitchell there. We've spoken about him. Isaiah Katoa. So there was a little bit of chat floating around that he might actually lose his spot this week. He's there in the 17 and starting for Dolphins?
Well, it's because they've decided not to play Hamiso.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting when Hamiso comes back. How do they work it? Does Nicarima go into 7 and... I'm having a mental blank. Another one.
Milford. So
Does
Milford
he
had a
stay
blighter
5'8"?
on the
He
weekend.
was very good.
Yeah, so he's caused a bit of drama at that club. In any case, I think Katoa is a sell. He's done his job for us.
So have I. What's that? 2 mental blanks. Not even into the teams. It's just a shocker. Say people have a head like a potato.
It happens. It's that gloat section. Really went
Could
to
be.
your head
Could be.
and-
Lockie Miller.
How
So lucky were the holders that he didn't even get on the field.
Yeah, so
he's got to go.
Didn't lose any cash there. And then Jack Gajewski, another his price has peaked. Jackson Ford as well, also on the sell list. Let's take some questions. Actually, let's not take any questions because I believe I've been through most of them.
There's a lot of scrolling,
Alamotti,
no questions.
yeah, Alamotti to Carraz.
That's a worry.
Would you go Alamotti to Carraz?
Yeah.
I actually quite like that trade. Yep. Any major buys this week? Thinking of saving trades this week with 18 players already. Look, it's not a massive trading week unless you can't get a 17 on the park. Again, we're going to have to wait until after Origin to see who's going to back up.
There's no must-haves. I think Jack Bird's probably the must-go after 2 weeks out.
Tigers v the Raiders. It's at Campbelltown Stadium. At the Tigers, they've just got the one change from that massive win they had in their last match with Joe Offengawe not there anymore, having switched to the Eels. Coruscant's been named back up. Supercoach-wise, I had John Bateman circled to bring up here. I tend to agree with you. He's a bit underrated this week.
I think he's a really good get. Like, he's 580k, base of 50, lots of attack in him. Just seems to be warming up as the Tigers. The whole team's going to miss Up. Oh, no, Uppy's there. Jesus
Uppy's there,
Christ,
yeah.
I'm having a shot.
He is there, but it's like 48 hours after Origin.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, it's like 46 hours by the time you get to full time.
Yeah, so if he's out, I think a lot of the attack's going to miss him. But who knows? I think I should stop, Thomas.
We can't just quit mid-podcast.
Fair enough. I can't do a...
You're going to have to fight through.
I can't do a big mouth. That's it. I'm
Yeah,
done.
that's it.
Career's over.
And Jareen Buller, of course, at the Tigers, pretty popular. Raiders, no Croker, as we mentioned. That means Kotrick to the wing. And Hopewade, who's just a bit of a beast this year, I have to say, is in at centre. No CHN, of course, after that rather scary moment on the weekend. And Hudson Young has been named to back up. The guy who everyone's getting on this week for Supercoach is Pasami Saulo. Look, he's the most popular cheapie this week. I don't like it because it could be an AE nightmare down the track, and we never know what Ricky Stewart's actually going to do. Having said that, the team this week is set up for him to play some decent minutes.
Yeah, you've only got 2 bigs on that bench, unless something happens in there to change it. I fear that he and Gula can become slightly interchangeable pieces, and you hop on him, you might only get 2 weeks of price rises, and then he goes back to the bench, and you got to sell him. So I'm not a huge fan.
Warriors via the Dolphins at the Warriors. They've got 3 relatively serious players back in Egan, Dylan Walker, and Mitch Barnett back for his first game after that serious neck injury. Chance Nickel-Clockstad just keeps every week. I'm like, I'm going to sell him in round 14. This is the week I'm going to sell him. But he just keeps delivering.
He was very good, very good. I sold him. I think I turned him into Marzu, which I'm not devastated about. But I think he's a legit hold as a 4-5 centre wing.
Dolphins, as I mentioned, the Hammer and Tom Gilbert are confirmed rested. Supercoach-wise, anyone else standing out for you there? JMK did okay if you brought him in for Harry Grant.
Did very well. A bit disappointed Nicarima stayed at fullback. I prefer him at 5'8". He's missing all that sort of base tackling, but he actually looked pretty good. He made more runs than I was expecting him to make at fullback, so keep it up. Cody.
Titans via the Rabbitohs. They've got David Fafita and Tino both named to back up, but they are missing Kieran Foran, which is a bit of a blow for their attack.
And a blow for Fafita.
They've got Keanu Kinney at fullback. Now, on his debut, he got 21 points in 13 minutes. He looks like a Supercoach style of player. Potential cheapie. The issue is, particularly with Foran out, and that means Jaden Campbell goes into the halves. Issue is only available at fullback. So in my case, I'd be having to sell Jareen Buller, which is just not going to happen.
No, pass.
Pass? Fair enough. You really want to get this podcast over, don't you?
Before I stuff up anymore.
Rabbitohs, Latrell's out. Murray and Arrow have been named to back up. They've also got Campbell Graham back from that sternum injury that kept him out of Origin and last week. Cody Walker, in actual NRL, had a great game. I try not to look at the scores too much when a game is taking place because I want to concentrate on the game and then I'll look at the scores afterwards. I was watching that. I thought Cody's on a ton for sure. 3 try assists, 2 try contributions, and only gets 68 points.
Well, the price can come down. I'm hoping it does because I haven't got him and I'd like to get him in a few weeks' time. Geez, the right edge looks better now with Campbell Graham and Richie Kenner. They got massacred in defence last week.
Richie Kenner, yeah. Alex Johnson just keeps scoring tries as well, particularly at Accor Stadium, where they're not playing this weekend. Sharks with the Broncos. Nico Hines has been named to back up, and Nicker is popular as well.
He is. I'll throw this out. One person asked whether they should buy Talakai this week. I'm not a huge fan of buying a big unit like that back off an injury. I'd want to see.
Yeah, neck injury too. So I'm always a little bit wary when you see neck on the injury sheet. Broncos, they've got their 5 Origin players named to back up, but we'll see what happens later in the week.
Yeah.
Roosters, they've got Teddy and Collins, both named to back up. Jake Turpin is the guy that you're seemingly all over.
He's away out of Sonny Luke, and it was only a couple of years ago he was playing 80 minutes for the Broncos and doing very, very well doing it. So he can play big minutes in the middle. I'm not 100% sure about Tupanua at 13. I thought maybe Nathan Brown would go there, but Drew Hutchison might play a bit. They're trying to get him as more of a middle. I'm surprised Nat Butcher didn't go there. I just hope they show up and go well.
I've also got a big watch on Joey Manu this week, having sold him a couple of weeks back. Bulldogs, TPJ and Josh Adokar named but in reserves, so they still could come into that team. A guy who, Carraz is popular. Jacob Preston I held because of the good coverage that the Bulldogs have. Some of the best coverage in the comp from here on in. So Preston stayed in my team. Carraz is a great buy. And there's a kid called Blake Wilson named on the wing. He may not end up there if Josh Adokar backs up.
Yeah.
But he got 50-odd basically in base on debut. Then his second game was off the bench and he only got a handful of points. But a guy who could have a SuperCoach-friendly style of game.
Yep. And look, I'm going to come back to Harrison. I thought he was really good. And it was Reed Marnie got knocked out by Tino. And it was Edwards who slotted into hooker and did really well there. So that might have helped, his sort of utility value, but maybe it hurt as well. So he ends up on the bench. I don't know.
At the Cowboys v the Storm, it's up there in Townsville. Jason Taumalolo looking to return, named on the extended bench. And then they've got Holmes, Tuolangi and Cotter all named to back up from Origin. Anyone taking your fancy there at the Cowboys? Not a particularly SuperCoach relevant team for mine.
Interesting bench, isn't it? You've got the Goz and Nanai, so 2 legit second rowers there, and then 2 middles. I don't know.
Who knows? But all their Origin players are on the extended bench
reserves as well.
So
you have no idea what that team's going to line up as.
At the Storm, they got the same 17 as their last match. Of course, had the bye last week. That means Munster and Grant have been named. I desperately need Harry Grant to play in this game because I don't want to play Sonny Luke. And they do have a decent turnaround, pretty much the longest turnaround you can get after Origin. So fingers crossed he does play.
What happened to Tarek Sims? Tarek Sims went to this team, as a New South Wales
21,
player, and he can't get on the field. It's interesting.
Panthers v the Dragons. At the Panthers, all their 6 Origin players have been named. Sonny Luke is the big watch for me. I desperately don't want to have to play him. Tyrone Peachy could drop out of that team as well at any moment. What are your thoughts on this side?
Just good team. When you've got Tunga, Spencer Lenny who's still to come into there. It'd be interesting to see how they run out. I don't think it's going to be the way they're named now.
And then at the Dragons, just the one Origin player for them with Ben Hunt named to return. That means Sullivan goes back to the bench. SuperCoach-wise, I bought in DeBellin and Jack Bird over the last couple of weeks. and not happy with either of those trades. Now they've got the Panthers and another tough matchup straight after this as well.
Spellin would have been going better if he didn't get sent off. Billy Burns can go okay, but yeah, it's a bit of a fear. How good's the job security is there for 2 weeks while Bird's out? Yeah, it's a pass.
Ryan Scott saying Katoa to Metcalf. So maybe his club debut on the weekend. Yeah. He's got a little bit of attack in him. For me, that 5'8" slot, you need 2 keepers in there, so I don't have space for him.
Yeah, he's priced okay too, but still too much uncertainty around it. I couldn't do it myself.
Can Latrell start for the Rabbitohs this week since he has been cut from the Blues team? No, because he hasn't been named. Yeah. Latrell to Talakai. I'm not that. Yeah, I'm not that keen on Talakai.
There's other options, I think.
What are you smoking, Sangster? Supercoach says Holmes isn't playing. Well, it should just say that he is on the extended bench. He'll have is it a blue dot for extended bench? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's named.
Right.
He's 100% in the squad, just not starting.
I didn't do the cows, which is good because I've stuffed everything else up today. So if it is wrong, it's probably my fault, not Tommy's.
Yeah, I'll definitely blame you for it.
Thank you, mate. Yeah.
And then we'll take one more. Croker not named. I think that's about it. I reckon we call an end to the team club. Finally, the pain is over.
Thank God. Look, let's come back tomorrow. After tomorrow night, let's come back on Thursday and actually have a chat with some idea about what's going on Thursday. Yeah.
Thursday, 11 a.m. We'll catch you then.